Deciding where to attend college is a big decision for high school students and their parents, so we're sharing ways to help your teen choose the right school. Meg Radunich is an academic advisor at New York University in New York City, formerly at Utah Valley University, and she's back in town, and we're thrilled that she stopped by. This is a big deal. How can parents help students as they approach this huge decision?
It's a big decision. It can be really overwhelming for a lot of students. So it's important to start that dialogue with your high school junior or senior now. One key question for parents to ask their students is, when you picture yourself thriving in college, happy, successful, what does that look like to you? For some students, this means a very traditional college campus where they're going to football games, they're doing Greek life, maybe they're living in the dorms, a very traditional college experience, right? For other students, this means that they're living in an urban city where they're surrounded by a diverse population of people, where there is no distinction between the city and the campus. The campus is the city is the campus. And when I think of my students at NYU, you know, I laugh because they're walking through Washington Square Park in the middle of the day with a protest going on, going to class. So
sure, like, slightly different from when you were in Alabama and people are wearing a shirt and tie to a football game, right?
Very, very different. And so you want to start having those conversations with your student about, where are you going to be comfortable? Is that too distracting for you? Because there's just so much that goes into this decision.
And that's a great idea, to kind of start with the lifestyle of what college should look like for them.
Exactly.
And that can change as much as individuals can change.
Exactly.
What about cost? I mean, that's obviously for parents, maybe not for the students, for parents, that is top of mind when it comes to college. How do you kind of filter that out and decide how much is worth putting in to college and how much is, you know,
Definitely.
we really need to make a financial decision?
We can't talk about college without addressing the financial burden that sending a student to college places on a lot of families. It's a really big consideration to make. The public schools are always going to be less expensive than private institutions, but if cost is a concern of yours, don't rule out private institutions, because a lot of them do offer some pretty generous financial aid packages, opportunities for scholarships and work study. So that's why it's so important to talk to your high school advisor, and also touch base with the scholarships offices and financial aid offices at the institutions to get a read on what the financial piece is going to look like for you.
Right, and it's not always just student loans, right? Like you said, there's scholarships, so not to be intimidated. I know that can be a big one. Ask the right questions, yes. Right, then you have a great tip. You say that choose campus fit over prestige. And that's kind of different. You know, we kind of think, oh gosh, if my kid can get into Harvard, we are going to Harvard.
That's exactly right. I've seen that happen a lot. In fact, one of my freshmen came to me this year, and just NYU was not a fit for her. The city was overwhelming. The institution was not what she wanted. She wanted to be at a liberal arts college with 2,000 students, you know, very personalized attention.
So the opposite of NYU.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. And I asked her, I said, so why did you attend this university? Why did you choose this school in the first place? And she said, well, it was the most prestigious university I got into. And it got me thinking about how it is important to value environment and the fit over prestige, because I see that happen sometimes, where students get caught up in this idea of a family legacy and they've got to go to the school that's the most impressive, but it's not worth sacrificing your happiness, of course.
Right, and thinking of the end goal too, I think, is part of that. You know, getting through college is probably more important than going somewhere prestigious and then kind of feeling like this isn't for me.
Exactly.
Right. Your next tip is consider where you want to live after graduation, something that I haven't thought a ton about.
I wish I had thought about this, because, I didn't think about this, because throughout college you're building your professional network, you're completing internships, you're building your contacts. So if you leave after graduation because it's not a place you would ever live, be prepared that you're going to have to rebuild your network in that new place where you live. And it was a struggle for me to get my first job after graduate school, because I was living in a place where I didn't have any contacts. It wasn't where I went to school.
Do you think a college tour is worth it? I know that's kind of a popular thing, spring.
Always. Do as many college tours as you possibly can, because there is information that you can't glean from a brochure or a website, you know. So when you're on that campus, you're looking around thinking, wow, you know, this student body there's enough people that look like me that I'm going to have some friends with some commonalities, but enough people that are different from me where my worldview is going to be challenged a little bit. So always do a campus tour and trust your gut instinct when you're on that campus tour.
So make that the family vacation.
Oh yeah,
for spring break, kids,
right?
we're going to college campuses. What about choosing a major? This is such a tricky one, and it feels like our students, our kids are being kind of forced to pick early. How important is it to know what you think you'd like to do before you apply to colleges and pick one?
I hate to say it because I think it's a lot of pressure to put on a high school student to know what they want to major in at 18 years old. But at some institutions, it's pretty important because they cap the number of students that can be in those programs. One thing that I really loved about working at Utah Valley University is a lot of the programs are open enrollment. And so if you want to major in animation or you want to major in accounting, they don't cap the number of students that are in those programs. Some universities are really competitive. And so that's something that you want to think about. You know, if you're at an institution where they only accept a certain number of students, maybe you want to go somewhere else where it's a sure thing. Something to consider.
Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely worth thinking about it. You can always change, but knowing that going in is a great idea.
Yes.
What about alumni? You talk about kind of reaching out to alumni.
This is something I wish I had done. LinkedIn didn't exist when I was in high school,
Right.
but I think it's a really good idea because these are not recruiters, right? So if you get onto LinkedIn and you search for graduates of University of Utah and you reach out to some of them and say, I'm interested in attending this university, can you tell me a little bit about your experience? They have no vested interest in selling you on the school. They'll give it to you straight. You know, my class sizes were huge, or my TAs were teaching my classes. They're going to give you the real deal of what that university was like for them. So I think that that is a really good idea. Reach out to the alumni and do some personal interviews and get the real story.
And probably one or two of those phone calls is going to get you so much further than a lot of the other research, like you said, reading brochures. Doing those kinds of things would ever get you.
I agree.
And I love your last tip, which is take a risk. But explain that. What kind of a risk are we taking with college?
A calculated risk. Always take a calculated risk because whether you're going to the community college down the street or you're moving halfway across the country, it's always going to be an adjustment. It's always going to be scary for any 18-year-old starting college. So you might as well take a risk. And at the end of the day, if you end up at an institution where you're not happy, all right, so you transfer after a semester or two. It's not that big of a deal.
Right, and keeping things in perspective is so good. If our students are still kind of struggling to make a decision, any final ideas or tips on how to help them?
I get it. I'm indecisive. I encourage students, trust your instincts on this. Just like any other decision in life, sometimes it cannot be easily quantified. You can't do a pro-con list for every decision in your life, and in choosing college is one of those decisions. So sometimes it does just come down to a feeling of this is the right place for me, and it may not make sense to the people around you, but it doesn't really matter. So
it doesn't. At the end of the day, it's you, right? Where can people find more information?
I have a website, megradunich.com, where you can read more information.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Emily.